Hello and welcome to another episode of the Encores Club. As always, your two hosts, Velvet Rebel and Rhonda from Daily Durani, which is very appropriate because both artists we are talking about today are related to Duran Duran in some sort of way. First up today is Autohypnosis. Is it the future yet? And that is basically just Nathan Stack. Rhonda, who is Nathan Stack?
So Nathan, I don't know when he started really working with the band, but I suspect it was back in MySpace days because I remember that he took the initiative and started the MySpace account for Duran Duran because they just weren't really doing much with social media. And since then, I know he's done some special projects with them. I know he helped a lot with TV Mania when they were trying to do the promotion for that, and I believe he handled their Twitter for that. And I think now what he's doing is he likes to compile all of like the list from like Spotify. So he does a lot of that stuff.
Awesome. Well, up next is Auto Hypnosis. Is it the future yet? So here is a preview that he actually put out that gives you a little preview of the entire album. Check it out. All right, that was a preview of the new album from Auto Hypnosis. Is it the future yet? You mentioned they did some work with the Duran Duran and Warren and all them on TV Mania, and I think that's a great reference point because of all the Duran Duran projects out there, I think TV Mania is probably the closest to this and what auto hypnosis sounds like. But I mean, right out of the gates, I was blown away. I didn't expect it to be so rock and punk, I guess. Tomorrow's Brightest Grotesqueries, something inconspicuous. Right out of the gates, a lot of overdriven guitar. I love the sound of it. It reminded me a bit of Muse.
Mhm.
But then as you get deeper into the album, it starts to get a little more esoteric, a little more ambient. And I really enjoyed the balance of it. None of it overstays its welcome. I mean, it's a fast moving album and kind of takes you on a journey. What was your impression?
It's funny because I was going to say much the same thing. I was shocked actually because I was expecting something completely different, more TV Mania to start with. I really was, and so when he starts off and it's like, I mean, it does. It sounds a lot like Muse, but I mean, there's that guitar. It's not it's never overspoken. It's in there, but I really liked, it's almost like grungy the way it sounds. And I don't mean grunge guitar like 90s grunge. I just mean, the feel of it. It's like a crunchy sort of sound. But I loved it. I really did. I like the first two songs a lot. And then from there, it totally changes directions. And you're hearing something far more esoteric and there's an aesthetic there that's very similar to, I think, what I would have heard from Nick and Warren. I mean, there's definitely I know of where he studied. There's no argument there at all. One of my favorite songs on the album is "Death on a Pale Horse." It just I really liked sitting back and listening to that. And this is an album that you can dive into because it's not your typical rock album. Like nothing you probably have heard before. So I really enjoyed it.
Agreed. And I mean, lyrically, my favorite song is "Blue Skies and Golden Sunshine" to end the album. I like kind of how it brings everything together. The notes I was making as I was listening in terms of lyrics was, uncertain happiness, unsettled futures. There's a little instability to it, a little uncertainty, almost like kind of looking forward into a dystopian nightmare. And I'm always for darkness and things like that. So it really struck a chord with me, and I really found myself engaged by it. If you're a Duran Duran fan, and obviously if you are aware of Nathan Stack, then this is definitely something you want to check out. If you like the band's more experimental side, especially whether it's Land or TV Mania, I think there's some really great stuff in here you'll find. But even if that's not your style, and maybe you more into the 90s sound. Like I said, I heard Muse in there. I heard some Portishead. I mean, a really easy reference point for me would be Radiohead, in that, they have the guitar driven rock stuff, but then they've done some really experimental electronic stuff. And, Nathan Stack's bringing it all together with auto hypnosis. So I'm giving it a thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. For me too. Just to kind of tie this all together, I really did appreciate the fact that he doesn't it's not just all electronic. It's very, I like the layers to it. He's I don't To me, this is like a thinking type of album. You can listen to stuff and sure you can just drift away, but I really like the thought that he put into it. I mean, it's I'm looking forward to seeing what he does after this because it's very, I don't know. I just like the fact that it's deep enough for us to kind of sink our teeth into without it being so out there that it's like you've lost me. So I was great.
Yeah, and if you like it, obviously it's on Spotify and things like that, but you can grab it super dirt cheap price. I think it was $5 on Bandcamp, so incredible value there for a really great record. Next up is a guy named Dom Brown.
Who? Who?
Think he plays guitar currently in this 80s outfit called Duran Duran. But Don Brown's been doing solo music for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, kind of a while. Yeah, yeah. He's been doing it. In all fairness, yeah, he's been with the band since with Duran Duran since what 2004, I think was his first appearance with them. But they didn't really like bring him in as one of their own, I think, really until 2006 ish. But he's been writing for a long time. He's worked with a lot of artists across the board, both as a session musician and also he's done his own bands. Right now, he's doing something of his own called the Stand-Ins, and they kind of they do a lot of classic rock, but it's meant to be like in that band style. They're not trying to redo it and trying to revamp it. They're playing it the way it was meant to be heard. So, but he's done a lot of stuff, everything from blues to rock to there's even some country on this one. So,
Absolutely. And I think rock is what he does best if you look at some of the stand in shows. So let's have a listen to one of the more rockier tracks on Dom Brown, In My Bones. This is Mercury Ascending.
I need to feel your breath upon me. It's getting lonely. What's your story? It's been so long. The world's all upside down.
so that was a little bit of Mercury Ascending from Dom Brown off of his album In My Bones. So I've been listening to it for a while because I did a podcast on it, and yeah, admittedly, he's one of my favorites. So I snatched this album right up when he started, when he decided to start giving it away as pre-orders, which was great. And they were signed. And so that was really cool. The thing is with this album is that compared to anything else he's done, I would say this is super eclectic. I mean, he goes from it being like, like straight rock to In My Bones it reminds me so much of Ice House and what else of well it's in that vein, I would say. There's Whisper to the Wise, which has a lot of call and response on it. Shadows sounds a lot very, very country. So and I forgot the best one, I think, to show his full breadth of what he does on this album is Baby Don't Worry. That's like Spanish flamenco. Blew my mind when I first heard it all because it's like, I don't know, you wouldn't necessarily find one, guy putting all of this different styles on an album, yet it all works. There's definitely a statement being made. I mean, there's a lot of themes lyrically of, overcoming some sort of loss and grief and struggling with a pandemic and with, political strife. And it's sort of, I think he covers everything and then it goes to the end and the last song is Let It Wash Away. And I think it just sort of, kind of reminds you have to just let it go. You have to let it go and live in the present. And so, of course, I really did like it a lot. But the thing is for me, I feel like anyone who really likes rock and roll, would love this. Anybody who likes a little blues would love this. And what did you think, Jason?
Well, I thought the title "In My Bones" was extremely appropriate because obviously he's mixing in a lot of styles here and he can play them all very easily. One thing I was struck by is how easy this sounds like it comes for him, as well as the other studio musicians. Obviously, he's able to pull from some of the best that are working right now. At no point did it sound like they were really having to push themselves outside their comfort zone. I'm like, this is, hey, we're going to do this song with a Latin vibe. We're going to do this a little more country rock. I mean, they can do whatever they want, and that must be nice because I've never, had that talent musically, and a lot of bands don't.
Yeah.
You mentioned "Baby Don't Worry." That one really struck me as the most outlier. I was like, "Ooh, this is cool," and like I'd love to hear him do it with Carlos Santana and have them two trading guitar licks or something. I'm like, it would
That'd
blow
be
my
wild.
mind.
Mhm.
My favorite song on the record you mentioned is "Shadows," and yeah, it does have that kind of a country rock vibe. It sounds like it was a hit song in the '90s by one of those bands like I kind of knew, but I kind of didn't. It's like instantly familiar, classic narrative style. The guy going into a diner. He mentions Yucca Valley. So in my mind, I'm thinking about tours with him on the road with Duran Duran. I know they did a show in Palm Springs. I think you even went to that, and maybe they were driving up to Vegas next, stopped in Yucca Valley at a diner, and he wrote it on the bus. I My brain goes in those kind of
I know.
directions. But I like that one. It's just a really well written song. It doesn't try to be anything it's not. And to me, that would be, a radio friendly single if radio stations played bands and artists like this. I don't know if that really happens. Where the album kind of loses me, I'm a huge Delta blues fan, so I appreciate, some of the slide guitar and stuff. But anytime the soulful gospel stuff starts coming in, for me, it's a matter of authenticity. And sometimes it's hard to pull that off.
Mhm.
Eric Clapton struggled with that a lot throughout his career doing blues. And while I still appreciate it and enjoy it, that stuff didn't hold my attention maybe as much as some of the more rocking stuff. But
Yeah.
overall, I mean, there's no denying. I mean, Dom's one of the most in-demand guitar players for a reason. Watching that stand-in show, my lord, when he goes into Hendrix and stuff, absolutely incredible. So I came away pleasantly surprised. For me, "In My Bones" is just a lot of songs. And it's not really an album experience. It's just here's all the different things Dom can do. It's almost like a CV that he could hand to someone. Say, "You want to hire me? I do everything." So I was impressed, and I think you were a little worried that I might not be as impressed.
I was worried because I didn't know, how you would hear it. Um, I don't know. For me, I do hear like the full story. I think it is in there. But I agree with you because of the fact every song is almost in a different style. I hate saying this, but it isn't quite as cohesive, I think, in a lot of ways. I will also say that as someone who has no songwriting experience, there were a few songs where there would be an awkward bridge where it would just there would be like a tempo change or just the style would change, and I that would lose me every time. It's taken me a while to listen and be like, okay, okay, I got it. But then there was other things like he blows out theoretically like a candle in my bones, and that blows me away every time. I mean, I like that because
Mhm.
it's different. So yeah, I mean, nothing is perfect, but I thought he did a really good job, and I have to give him props for the production on this because that I am a stickler about, and he really does allow for there to be space, and that matters. I mean, it really does. It sets a song apart. So I'm gonna, I'll go to bat for him for that for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a fan of like positivity and lyrics about overcoming and all that kind of stuff, I mean, Coldplay, all that kind of music that's all
Oh,
about hanging in there, and for me, it's I struggle with that stuff. That's not what I go to music for. I'm more interested in um, I guess I don't. I sound like a miserable sod when I say, like obviously I like Joy Division and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm
wow.
drawn to more challenging type stuff. But I know most people aren't. They just want to, sing really loud, enjoy themselves, and be happy. And I think this music could really give them a reason to do that. So while the lyrics and stuff aren't really my style, what he is singing about, it works. And if you're a fan of that, It's a really good album to pick up. For two artists who are kind of floating in that Duran Duran orbit, I think these are both really worthy additions to the catalog if you're a fan of Duran Duran.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they could not be more different, which is so fun. I mean, that's the best part about doing the show is that you can, these two, they've obviously had some inspiration from the band. I mean, of course they have. And yet they are so different. And I love it. It was great.
Yeah, and I mean, Dom, we talk about it, he's playing all these different styles. I mean, just working with Duran Duran, he has to. You're going from Andy, who's a proper pub rocker, can play
Yeah.
anything from AC/DC, and then you go to Warren, who's one of the most, I don't know, esoteric guitar players ever, where he's going to challenge every single thing about guitar playing to make it different and difficult. And Dom pulls those both off easily.
He did.
And he's gonna have to do it again now because Graham Coxon's gonna be on the new Duran Duran album. One would assume Graham won't tour, so Dom's gonna have to replicate another guitar player now and make it his own.
I think so. He's very good at doing that. He's a chameleon. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for being able to pull it all off. And I think people don't realize that what he plays with Duran Duran is just such a small little bit of what he's capable of. So I would love to see more people embrace his work and see, oh wow, yeah, he can play, because he not only can he play, he can sing. So yeah, I all day long I could talk about him. So anyway.
But we don't have all day. So
No.
we are going to wrap up this episode of the Encores Club. Once again, Autohypnosis. Is it the future yet? Nathan Stack, who's worked with Duran Duran, and then Dom Brown, In My Bones, the current guitar player in Duran Duran when they tour. So both fantastic. I'm based at half of myself, Velvet Rebel, and Rhonda from Daily Durani. We thank you as always for joining. Somewhere on the screen is a subscribe button. Please hit subscribe. We need some followers on YouTube to keep this rolling. And we hope to see you again. And if you have any ideas for bands we need to check out, definitely send us an email.